I never would have imagined it, but this is the gun that's kicking off our new series. This year, we're gonna bring you Guns of Pop Culture. It's a new series where we're gonna talk about guns made iconically cool, largely in part from their use in movies and television. And today, I'm gonna betray that entire concept with this. It's the Archon Type B, a gun that is in almost zero films, but I believe is destined to grace the silver screen. Now, we reviewed the Type B early on in our channel's history, and I've always had this unexplainable soft spot for it. And recently when I saw the new gen with this massive compensator on it, I thought, that's gun. So join me today as we talk about the Archon and the 5 classic action movies it could have been featured in. You can play along in the comments and see if you can guess the movies in advance. The winner gets I don't know, you get an internet high five. All right, let's get on with it. Now, a couple of quick thank yous and disclosures. So one, Archon, I have no relationship with Archon whatsoever. I only say that because a video like this about a gun that should be in movies, I would, as a skeptical gun tuber, I would go, oh, they definitely paid them to make that video. Not the case. Didn't even get a free gun. I actually paid for the gun from a local shop because I just thought it was so cool and I really wanted to do the video. So there's that. Another thank you to the Internet Movie Firearms database. This whole series that we're doing with Guns of Pop Culture will not be possible without that website. They are in zero way affiliated with us. Just telling you, that is a rabbit hole of a website that you guys can go down. And the biggest thank you of all would be to Ciguera Gear. They sponsor our channel for quite a while now. They make belts and a lot of other things that we highlighted in a recent gear video, from these little headrest panel systems where you can attach an IFAK and mags or whatever the hell you want. They've got our new mag carriers we've been rocking. They've got the battle wagon. They've got all kinds of stuff, little mag sleeves so you guys can carry your mags for EDC in a super low pro way. You guys can plug in the code 1911 Syndicate. That'll save you guys 10% off the entire shop there. Really appreciate those guys. On with the show. Now, there's only 2 movie references I can find where the Archon has actually been used. One is the fairly recent Ambulance with Jake Gyllenhaal. Not exactly an Oscar contender. Yeah, just not. But it's briefly used, I believe it's in the bank heist scene. But then in the second movie, it's actually used by Cassian, played by Common in John Wick 2. If you guys will remember, they're on the subway scene. John Wick's down below, he's down by the subway. Cassian, he's up top, and they're taking those little pop shots at each other, right? And it is amazing, the suppressor technology that they discovered that those guys are using, because they're tiny little cans, but I mean, they're not even detectable to an entire subway full of freaking people. So those are the 2 movies that the Archon Type B has been in, which is a little bit ironic because my first pick for the movie that the Type B really could have been a major player in is the original John Wick. And debates can ensue about which John Wick pistol was best, but in my eyes, it was clearly the P30L from the OG John Wick with the massive compensator on it. But there's a lot of great scenes in the original John Wick, but I think that we would probably universally agree that the one we all remember is the Red Circle nightclub shootout. I mean, it really is a notably great action movie with awesome choreography. And going into this video, one of the things that I was like, I watched the scene and then I went back and I thought, man, how many rounds did they fire in this? You know, it's like the endless mag syndrome of every action movie. So I was like, I'm gonna go back and watch that. And I'm gonna get him and I'm gonna tell him how many rounds they overshot. I count a total of 54 rounds that he fires. And what's interesting is that the reloads come at like 15 to 20 round increments. For those of you who don't know, standard mag capacity on the P30L is 17 rounds. So if John Wick had his mag in the gun and 2 more on his belt, which is what appears was the case, he would have had 52 total rounds. So if we're talking about a margin of a couple of rounds off in that entire sequence, that's actually pretty amazing if I'm being honest with you. But part of what made that John Wick P30L work is that it was this sort of larger than life presence. And the comp is a huge part of that. See, larger than life characters need a worthy sort of hero, big action hero movie gun, right? And the P30 definitely had that. The comp serves as kind of a cheat code. It was interesting because in John Wick, it also totally changes the tone of his gun. You hear everyone else's guns fire and then you hear his, and it has this sort of different menacing tone about it that's actually really cool. So maybe we'll back up for a second and talk about, is the Type B any good to shoot? So let's talk a little bit about, is the Archon actually a shooter? Because unlike some movie guns that are basically just props, this is actually a real gun. So we should at least look at, is the thing any good to shoot? So first of all, it does have a pretty neat feature, and I'm gonna call it a feature, even though it probably isn't, but you give it a nice little hard mag insert, and you get the birthday bump. That I like. So a couple of things. Grip angle on this, it's kind of in this tweener stage, right? It's not a Glock where you really gotta, for those of you Glock shooters, you think that's a normal grip angle. For us 1911 shooters, we know that 1911 grip angle is superior. I don't even think the Glock owners would deny that. This is kind of in that hybrid zone. It's in between Glock and 1911, so you can pick up your dot pretty quick. So grip angle, cool. The grip texture, I like. So this isn't actually just, you know, the factory texture. This is actually more of just like skateboard tape and just kind of how they set this particular gun up. But again, it's grippy. You've got nice little texture up here where your thumbs go, all of that kind of stuff. If we look at the trigger, so the trigger's always been kind of one of the hallmarks of the Archon that, one, it's, I guess I would sort of call it a flat face trigger-ish. I don't know. It's got like a little bend in it. But the trigger's nice. There's creep. It's not a 1911, but it's like somehow it's this hybrid of, it's creep-ish, but it's clean. And it, let's see if we get it. Yes, we do. The trigger's good. The trigger's really good on these guns. It's one of the better features of it. Then you'll notice the dot. We'll talk about the dot a little bit later, but this is actually from our friends over at Lead and Steel. This is their second dot they've come out with, rifle one and then the pistol one. And then you'll see the big old fat comp at the end. So the question with comps, sometimes comps are hit and miss. Sometimes you're like, yeah, man, this thing's doing some work. And sometimes you're like, I don't know, bro. I'm not sure this thing's doing anything. So the best way I can describe this comp is it adds a certain violence to the recoil experience, but it definitely does work. It's almost like shooting an open gun or something where you go, you know, everyone will say those guns, even the Lago Alien, for example, they're like, oh, it has no recoil. It's like, no, it has recoil. It just goes about it in a different way. This is kind of like that. It's kind of violent when you shoot it, but that comp's driving those gases up, forcing the muzzle down, so it winds up back on target very quick. So overall, yeah, she's a shooter. Now, when I first saw the Instagram post about the Type B, the first thing
The Green Line train to airport was scheduled to depart in 10 minutes.
Okay, movie number 2. When I first saw the Instagram post of this gun here, basically configured exactly like this, it was on the Iron Horse Firearms page, and the first thing I did, no joke, is I sent them a DM and I said, that's RoboCop's gun, I need it. And I think they wrote something back like, haha, so funny. And I was like, no, like, seriously, I need to get that. They probably thought I was joking, and like 2 days later, they came over to my house, and I was like, cool, yeah, just run the card, guys. Just make it happen. I need to make the RoboCop video here. So let's talk a little bit about RoboCop. What a treat it was to rewatch that leading into the video. So it's set in Detroit, sort of in that unknown year. Maybe it's the future, or we're not sure what's going on. And crime is rampant. And I know that is shocking given that we're talking about Detroit, but hey, you know, I don't know. Detroit got wild, you know, whatever. So a private company is taking over the law enforcement scene, and they come up with Ed 209, okay? And that is a robot that is designed to serve as the new law enforcement officer of the future. The only problem is that Ed 209 has some glitches.
Use your gun in a threatening manner. Point it at Ed 209.
Yes, sir.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
You now have 15 seconds to comply. You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113, Section 9. You now have 5 seconds to comply. 4, 3, 2, 1. I am now authorized to use physical force.
Somebody want to call a goddamn paramedic?
Now, I'm pretty sure that guy's going to need more than a paramedic, but all new tech has its glitches, much like Apple Vision Pro and all that kind of stuff, but we adapt and we overcome. Now, Officer Murphy, he's out pursuing criminals one day, unfortunately winds up in a little bit of an ambush and does take 1 or 2 rounds from a shotgun. But the good news is the evil corporation is able to take his body and convert it into some sort of robot-human hybrid known as RoboCop, and that will be the law enforcement of the future of Detroit. So what sort of gun would a RoboCop have? And that would be the Auto 9.
Gun.
Shit. This guy is really good.
He's not a guy, he's a machine.
So what is the Auto 9? The Auto 9 is actually a modified Beretta 93R with an extended barrel and this massive compensator on the end of it. Now, the 93R, for those that don't know, is a machine pistol. Think of it as like the ultimate Beretta 92. It's like a 92, but a freaking machine gun. It is, without comparison, my all-time grail gun. if I could do a video on the 1911 Syndicate channel on any gun that's ever been created, it would be the Beretta 93R. And if they want to give me the gun at the end of the video, that's perfectly fine too. I will not turn it down. Now what's crazy is the Auto 9 and the Archon actually look shockingly similar. And that's, again, the premise for the entire video. I don't even hardly know how this is a video that's happening, because I saw this and I was like, oh yeah, RoboCop. I was like, well, that's a video. Apparently, here we are, right? So part of what makes those look so similar is the way, if you look at the Auto 9 and the Archon here, they're both really cool because they have this unique feature where there's this little dip that happens, right, in the slide before we wind up rising up to the sight and the compensator, right? They kind of look shockingly similar. The Archon has that futuristic vibe, like it could be from some unknown era. Like if it's from the future, yeah, it could totally fit in. It's from some alternate world, yeah, it could fit into that. Of course, the only thing it couldn't do is be RoboCop's gun because it's simply too small. Allegedly, originally RoboCop was going to carry a Desert Eagle, and the director determined that the Desert Eagle actually looked too small in comparison to his armor and his suit, so they shifted over to the Auto 9. I would highly suggest you guys watch RoboCop. It is a great slice of 1980s nostalgia. But I guess if we back up for a moment, what is the actual Type B? So let's back up and talk about what the Archon Type B is. For a lot of you, it's a fairly niche gun and you're like, never really heard of it. So let's give it its moment here. So the Archon has been around, this is confusing, guys. It's been around since 2012, but it wasn't called the Archon Type B. It was like the precursor to what is now called the Type B. At that point, it was called the Arsenal Strike 1, which looks pretty much identical, right? And then at some point, there was the Arsenal Strike 1, and it went over to Salient Arms. Occasionally, you'll still even find one of those floating out there. So you're like, was that the standard one? I don't know. The Archon Type B came out in 2019, and it's a foreign gun, so it's imported into the U.S. And stay with me on this. So it is the Archon Type B. It is manufactured by RUAG. Now, RUAG is a Swiss company that also makes ammo. We actually saw the RUAG facility in Switzerland in Thun when we were over there shooting with B&T. So we have the Archon Type B manufactured by a Swiss company, but it is manufactured in Germany and Hungary, okay? Like Hungary. So that might be the most confusing thing. And then PTR is the importer. So it is a very niche pistol, and recently they started bringing in the Gen 2. There's kind of like a lag in the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 being available. So it's a striker fire gun. Very low bore access. Bore access basically defined by, hey, where the round in the barrel is, and low bore access would be, hey, the closer your hand is to the bore, which would be right there, it's supposed to like significantly reduce felt recoil and all that kind of stuff. Does it translate? Yeah, it's nice to shoot, it's like the Lago Alien is known for its low bore access, and that is a case of you very much get this different shooting experience. This is perfectly fine. I enjoy it, but it's not going to change the world per se. The Gen 2 does have a couple of interesting things, though. It has this modular grip. And so what I mean by that is you can basically change out grip textures fairly easy. This is how this one came, so I'm not sure exactly what was involved in it, but basically where you see all the sort of skateboard tape and everything, you can change that out to different textures, and you can also change the dimensions of the grip. So you'll see the back strap here and the little plate that's down here. So you can either stack more plates down here or take these away, right? And they have different length magazines meant to go with a different length of grip. So if you wanted to run this as like a CCW gun, cool, you would probably take this panel off and then just use flush fit mag, so it'd be a lower footprint. If you wanted to run it for competition, hell, you might even add one more panel and do an even longer mag well. So if you're a lady who's going to use this and you got small hands, cool, you can adjust the grip to fit your hands. If you're some giant Chris Blau dude and you're going to run it, hey, you can adjust the grip to do that. But speaking of women that might carry the Archon Type B, that brings us to our next movie. Before we talk about our heroine that would carry the Archon Type B, another thanks to sponsor of today's video, that'd be FLP Firearms Legal Protection. You guys have heard us talk about them a lot. Basically, hey, if you carry a firearm, whether that is the Archon Type B, it'd be a pretty interesting carry gun. Bold choice, Cotton. Let's see how it pans out for them. But whatever you carry, even if it's just a bedside gun, right, or something you have in your vehicle, you should have appropriate insurance in that unfortunate day you actually have to use that tool. So as long as it's a legally justified self-defense encounter, they're going to get you covered. I had a great call with them yesterday talking about a lot of the cool nuances and stuff that we don't have time for here, but it's like they really do everything they can to make sure that you guys as their customers are supported and covered if you wind up in that unfortunate day. So they've got a few different packages you can check out. We've got a link down in the video description. You guys can go to that, or you can just plug in the code 1911 and it saves you a bunch of money off the different tiers there. So check it out, appreciate them. And then final thank you, and we'll be back to the video, or not thank you, because it's for us, so you can't really thank yourself. But the 1911 Syndicate, hey, we're a small business. We're a real estate company that mostly deals inside of like the military, law enforcement, hunter, shooter community. We've got our website linked below. You can go check that out, hit us up. And we've also got our Patreon. We've got, man, maybe we got a bunch of cool shit that's happening on Patreon, guys. If I can just be candid with you, just me and you talking here, we got a bunch of cool shit that's going on Patreon. So check that out. Also in the video description on with the show. So what woman might carry the Archon Type B? Well, I can tell you this. She just became juttin'. Juttin'. What a fucking hillbilly moment that was. Juttin'. That's got to become a word. I got to submit that to Webster.
Just wouldn't.
Just wouldn't is juttin'. Well, I can tell you this. She wouldn't just be carrying one. She would be carrying two, because that's right, my friends. It is the world's hottest vampire, Celine, played by Kate Beckinsale in Underworld. Now, Celine, a little recap here. Celine is a death dealer, okay? That means she's a vampire and she's on a mission to eliminate lichens. That would be a werewolf. So the lichens and the what are the death dealers? They're in some sort of feud with each other. Look, guys, it's all very nerdy shit. You got vampires and werewolves and they're fighting each other, and she's basically like a hitman for the vampire squad. I don't know. It's very, very confusing. But her gun of choice is no other than the John McClane special, the Beretta 92 FS. Very classic choice. Now, the film guns are modified. It looks like they're running comps, but they're not. If you actually look at photos that we'll show you here, it's really just an extended shroud. It's just like a long slide-ish sort of Beretta 92 FS. And they're converted to full auto because we all know that dual-wielding full auto pistols is the fastest path to accuracy, sort of an accuracy by volume strategy there. Let's also not forget the classic power of the 92 FS, illustrated in the scene where Celine's being pressed down by the lichens and she uses her pistols to spin and actually shoot a hole in the floor where she crashes through. Now, the Type B could clearly fill in for those Berettas. It's got all the same vibes. I mean, if you look at this, you go minus the dot, and I think the dot actually adds in that other worldly sort of factor there, but you go, this has all the same vibes. It could easily fill in for that role. So we seem to be finding a little bit of a theme here, which is long slide pistols make for interesting hero guns. Now, Celine also gets a USP match at a certain moment within the movie. And speaking of the USP match, I guess that would bring us to Miss Croft. Now, 2001's Tomb Raider is a pretty bad movie by almost any objective measure, and it features notably bad weapons handling. Like, it's borderline impressive. And let's also not forget that that was actually Daniel Craig's first sort of break. It's hard to consider that any role in that could be a breakout role, but I mean, that really is Daniel Craig's first sort of like mainstream Hollywood role. And some casting director decided, man, we got this handsome, charming British man. Let's make him use a horrible American accent the whole time. Because yeah, that makes sense. But it did feature a great set of movie guns. Lara Croft carries a matching set of USP match pistols. And what's cool is, despite it being so cinematic with the stainless slide and the comp and everything, that's not actually it's a movie gun, but it's not a modified movie gun. That's an actual USP match, a gun that I believe they stopped making late 1990s, that I've become fairly obsessed with. Hopefully one day you'll see on the channel. But the comp that's on the end of it, I don't even know if we really consider it a comp. Essentially, the USP match had a longer barrel with this match weight on the end of it, right? So, and then on top of that, I was talking to James Williamson about this and telling him about that gun and the video we're doing and everything. He's like, hey, you should also tell him the USP match was the first USP that actually used the O-ring technology of the Mark 23, right? Where essentially you increase the accuracy, you get this match grade accuracy, because as the round passes through the barrel, it hits this O-ring, it swells ever so slightly, creates a tight seal up with the barrel and the slide. That's how you get this match grade accuracy without having any hand fit parts. Pretty damn incredible. Thank you, Germany, on that one. So she wears them on a double thigh rig holster setup with apparently endless magazines that do some sort of weird auto-loading sequence. And again, we come back to a central theme here, which is if we're looking for a hero gun, the best cheat code that we can come up with is just throw a comp on the end of it. Now, the actual movie gun sold at Rock Island auction in 2022, price tag, anyone, any guesses? $35,000 for the set. One of them was beat to absolute shit from the photos that I saw. But clearly the Archon Type B could substitute into a role like this, and much in the way that those USPs were basically a special edition of a base gun. That's also the case for this particular Type B. So let's talk about my particular Type B. So we've got a dog over here that increasingly seems to want to get further and further away. He's right outside of the pet zone. This is the pet zone is closer than this, but you can hang out over there if you want. It's spring, everyone, by the way. So thanks Utah for the snow here. It's awesome. So, oh no, that's not polite. So a local shop named Iron Horse Firearms does some work on the Type B. I think they're like a dealer, and they kind of mod them out a little bit, and basically that's where I got mine from. So this is, as best I can tell, called the Dark Horse Edition. Kind of cool name. I like it. No complaints there. So they do the acro cut on top. They do that. The dot in question is not an acro. My particular one has a whole lot of scrapes and dings on it. Why would that be, editor? I don't know. You got any theories? Any theories in this concrete jungle? How a gun that doesn't belong to you can get so done up like that? We'll move on. The dot is from Lead and Steel. It's their Pandora. These things run about $400. I've actually quite enjoyed this dot. This is really not meant to be a gun video, not a gun review, but just for those of you watching this that do like product-based stuff, hey, dot's been quite good. I've liked it. And like I mentioned, took a significant fall today, and it's still working. No signs of damage other than all of the freaking paint missing from the right side of it. You get fired, son. You get fired, son, real quick. This gun also has the Holy Grail trigger. So that's another mod that they do. So basically reduces the pull weight down to about 4 pounds, decreases the over travel. So, I mean, look, the trigger on these, I have always found them to be quite pleasant because it's just clean. It's like, yeah, there's a little bit of creep factor there, but it's just, it goes about it in a clean way. And then nice clean reset with basically no over travel. You just see like that trigger really has not much in the way of over travel. Just goes right to the wall. And functions quite nicely. The compensator is another thing that they're doing, and I like the comp. As much as like, yeah, it's fun when a comp does some work and the gun shoots nice and flat and everything, as much as anything, a comp just looks cool, and that is a central theme that we're finding out in this video. So I have enjoyed the comp quite a bit. This particular one also comes with night vision sights. That's cool. It comes with this neato textured grip. And the cool thing about this is a functional gun. Like, it's movie cool, but it's also a shooter. Like, the Auto 9 is cool, but that's a movie gun. It's not actually a shooter. But that brings us to the finale. For the finale, let's at least end on an actual good movie, shall we? And that would be, any guesses in the comments? The Professional. It just felt right. That felt like the final movie. So to recap The Professional, we've got Leon. Leon is what is known as a cleaner, aka kills people for money, everyone. You know, like hitmen in movies always like to use fun terms like that. Oh, I'm a cleaner. You know, it's like, I don't know, could you say you're a hitman? Or I kill people for money. Like, that might be the easiest way to put it. So Matilda, sweet little Matilda, she lives in a bad home, basically bad dad. And she's in the same apartment building a few doors down. And unfortunately, some corrupt cops kill her entire family in front of her. Sad day, but does lead to an action movie. Leon takes her in, vows to teach her the trade of becoming a cleaner. Now, I will be the first to admit, yes, the movie is a little bit weird. There's weird dynamics there. I don't think you could really make that movie in present day because there's this sort of lingering, like, is this about to get to some weird romantic level? Never quite goes there, but I'm just giving it a disclaimer for those of you that are like, kind of a weird movie, bro. Yes, but it is also a great gun movie, and like, you got to acknowledge the gun side of it. So his pistol, or pistols, are some of the all-time movie greats. He's got his Beretta 92 FS with that compensator. And it brings me so much sadness that that compensator is not made anymore. And I have tried to find it. I have gone to great lengths to find one. If anyone watches this that has one, you know, send a message, you know, make something happen here. But sadly, it is no longer made.
Don't you think like that? Yeah. I'll do it.
Again, there's a common theme we've seen in the list, which is apparently assassins like their, I don't know, I guess I'll call it work or duty gun, to have a comp on it, which is an interesting strategy for an assassin because a comp, of course, increases flash, concussion, noise, and weight, all of which would be horrible decisions for an assassin. But they look really good on camera, so we just kind of give them a wink and a nod and move on with the day. Now, the finale plays out as one of the greats, as the Berettas really do get some great screen time and some awesome moments.
Don't move.
You see anything? It's the guy. He's here. He's got a gun in my head. Okay, nobody moves.
Let the girl go.
Now take it easy, man.
Let the girl go.
Now, the Archon looks way more futuristic than the Beretta 92. Obviously, the Professional is kind of this weird, you know, it's a Frenchman. You know, I mean, the French, you know, they're the French. So they don't need red dots and stuff like that on their gun. The Professional is kind of this throwback movie. But if you were to take the dot off of this and take the Professional and you put it in the year 2024, you telling me that couldn't have been it? It 100% could have been the gun from the Professional. So where does that leave us with the Archon Type B? Well, like I said, there's something about the gun I've just always been drawn to. And for me, that's enough. I just think it's cool and I've always wanted one. And, you know, part of it is it's not a very often seen gun, which makes it kind of interesting and memorable when you see it. And memorable for the purposes of film is a good thing. Now, we've talked about 5 movies that the Archon could have been a featured gun in, but obviously those 5 movies already exist. However, each of those movies represent concepts, plots, themes that will repeat themselves. You've got assassins and these sort of alternate universes that also feature guns in them. And I think that the Archon could easily star in some of those movies that are being written right now. So we hope you've enjoyed this first edition of Guns of Pop Culture. And to those of you watching at home with your family, I'm going to turn it over to close it out to my friend, RoboCop.
Robo, excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.